Hello and welcome to the Under Center podcast. I'm your host, Daragh, and I am joined today by host of the Honolulu Blues Show, Nick Faber. Nick, how are you?
Oh, I'm living the dream. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be talking overseas. I like it. You know what I mean? It's about time I broaden my horizons, so I like it.
That's it. You've gone fully international now. You're over here on the Emerald Isle, so now there's no excuse. That means once you've talked on this show, it's compulsory that you have to then find a way to get over here. Then we go for a load of Guinness together and then just talk football.
Well, now you're barking right up the right tree. And I'll tell you what, real funny story. I started podcasting probably 5-6 years ago now. When I was in Spain for 3 months, I had a 3-month duration in Spain with my daughter, who was 18 months at the time, and my fiance. Yeah. Well, I had a lot of free time while I was over there. 18 months, she napped a lot. So I started writing, I started podcasting, and all of a sudden I just grew right into it. My first guest I ever had was a guy from Sweden. His name is Carl. He's a great dude. So I actually got a couple ties overseas, but I'm always excited to come back, and especially for that pint of Guinness. Absolutely.
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. And there's well, she heard Guinness, so that's why she was interested then.
That's exactly that.
Right. But that's it. You come over to Ireland, we get you some Guinness. I get you the proper Guinness, not the sort of touristy stuff that's not really that nice that you get. We'll get the proper stuff. But you're on today to talk about the Detroit Lions. You host the Honolulu Blues. I'm guessing. So is that me? Are you currently in Hawaii right now at the moment? Is that why you named the show Honolulu Blues?
No, solid question too. No, it's really the type of blue that the Detroit Lions are is called the Honolulu Blue. Okay. I mean, I guess Crayola made that. I don't know who decided that, but at some point, that's the Honolulu Blues. Or the Honolulu Blue. So what we did was kind of transform the Honolulu Blue into a blues-esque show, because if you've been a Lions fan, we all know for the last 70 years, it's been nothing but blue. You know, we've only seen nothing but blues here. Nothing good, nothing happy, all just sad songs. So we kind of turned it from the Honolulu Blue into the Honolulu Blues, and then show, because it's a fun show. We're live on YouTube, and we have a lot of fun. We do a lot of quirky things. It's going to be exciting. We're actually jumping on right after this show, so I'm going to be doing that show right after. A full slate of talking, and I can't wait.
Excellent stuff. And look, what better way to do than talking about your team, which is the Detroit Lions. And let's talk about the draft a couple of weeks ago, because you guys were picked number 7. I guess a lot of mock drafts, including my own, kind of had you taking a wide receiver in the first round, because we didn't think Penei Sewell would still be available. Well, I thought they wouldn't be. I thought the Bengals would definitely pick him up to give him protection for Joe Burrow. But you get him in pick number 7, round number 1. The video, obviously, if whoever watched the draft saw, Dan Campbell and his team were very happy that Penei Sewell dropped to him. That's at number 7. And what were your thoughts on Sewell?
Oh man, was I excited. This is the guy we've been banging the table for man, I don't know, many moons, I guess I would say. We had wanted Sewell. We had wanted him to fall. We tried to will Chase Young to fall to us last year. We tried as everything we could to just like help the universe, help Chase Young fall to Detroit. It didn't happen. He went to Washington. Well, we were right back at it. We went right back to the well this year. Everything we did, we spoke positively about Sewell falling to the Lions at 7. It had to be done. And it happened. And you could see the excitement from the front office. Oh my gosh. I literally thought our new GM, Brad Holmes, was going to like pile drive our owner, Sheila Ford Ham, because like he was so excited. I thought he was about to like put her through the table and we were going to have like a solid wrestling match. Like I was excited, and I'm excited to see that kind of excitement, because in the years past, the last couple of years, it had been Bob Quinn, and he's just twirling his little baseball bat, right? Just sitting there smirking. He's got a little baseball bat. Matt Patricia's kind of like grinning over there. He's like, we did good. It's the most terrible drafts I've ever seen in my life. They didn't know what they were doing. They were in over their heads, out of the water, fish out of water. So I was ecstatic to see the excitement. I believe I'm fully in. I'm drinking the blue Kool-Aid right now. I believe the Lions are winning the Super Bowl this year. Well, maybe not this year, but soon.
I know. Maybe next year. Give him Dan Campbell at least a year to bed in. But let's talk a little bit about the rest of the draft as well, because it was a sort of defense-heavy draft you went on this year. There was only 2 players on offense that you got, and that was in the later rounds as well. So it seems as though Coach Campbell and his team have seen areas that they want to improve on, especially for the first year, and that's defense.
And it's I've said this on my show 100,000 times over and over. Everyone turns it off normally when I start to talk about it, because I've said this all last year. We were the worst defense in NFL history. There is not one defense in the history of the NFL from 1922 or whenever this league started to 2020. There has not been a worse defense than the 2020 Detroit Lions. Not even the 2016, or I'm sorry, what was it, 2006 Detroit Lions that went 0-16, 2008 Detroit Lions that went 0-16. Not the Browns that went 0-16. No defense was as bad as the Lions were last year. So I'm fully on board, and I do believe if Sewell wasn't there, it wouldn't have been a wide receiver or Justin Fields. I believe it would have been Micah Parsons, and we would have reached for him. We wanted to address defense. That is how we're going to win. Expect the I don't know, here comes my cat again. Expect like the old school, like the Seahawks defense, the Bucks like that's how we're gonna have to try to win if we want to do anything in this year or next year. It's not gonna be on the back of Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyrell Williams. Like, it's just not gonna be on the back of them. It's gonna be on the back of the defense. We went strong in the trenches. First 3 picks were all in the trenches, 2 of which on the defensive side. We plan to run a 3-4 spread defense that's going to hopefully allow our defensive tackles to be used in a wide range. It's going to be an exciting process to see this, but I'm very happy that we invested so heavily in the draft in defense, and I don't think it's going to change for the next couple of years either.
Yeah, and the defense, it just, like you were saying, one of the worst last year, and there was so many times looking back on it where my mind goes back especially to that New Orleans game where you were up, I think it was 14 or 21-0 at one point, and just your defense could not hold on to it for love or money. And there was a couple of games like that last year for sure, but it was a lot of defensive draft picks, and I guess in the off season as well, if we're looking at it, there was a lot too there. You've got you brought in Quinton Dunbar from Seattle, but it's not all defense, I should say, because you have got Jamal Williams, who's after coming in from Green Bay. It looks like he'll probably play as the backup to DeAndre Swift, who will probably be number 1 next year. But it's probably on the wideouts, that's probably the biggest area of concern. Would it be on the offense after losing Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones this offseason, bringing in Tyrell Williams, who is a good player but can struggle a bit now with injury issues?
Yeah, I mean, wide receiver is huge. So I'm going to cycle around everything you just said real quick. First off, we did address defense in free agency too. Quinton Dunbar is awesome, but there's a cornerback to keep your eye on. For anyone listening, any Lions fans, he's going to be playing slot corner. His name is Corn Edler, like the food. Corn Edler. Comes from Carolina. Jalen Ramsey had great things to say about him. He's going to be an impactful, immediate starter on the Detroit Lions defense. He's going to be great to watch. Make sure you keep an eye on him. Our offense, we did try to address a little bit, but wide receiver is 100% the biggest if. We even waited till like the last pick in the 3rd round, pick 101, to get our first wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's going to be able to kind of fill in that slot-esque role, Danny Amendola style, which we saw Cooper Kupp and Jared Goff have a great chemistry. Now, obviously, I believe they played college together or high school together, so they had a little bit of chemistry before. But I still think that's going to be like a lifesaver almost for Jared Goff. But the addition of Brashad Perryman, whose dad played for the Lions, Brett Perryman in the 90s, and was awesome. And it's super fun and exciting to see Brashad Perryman on the Lions. Like, I had a Brett Perryman jersey, and if I would have kept that jersey and then got the Brashad Perryman jersey to get father-son jerseys, like, that's really cool. That's a fun story. But still, the addition of them, the addition of Tyrell Williams, the addition of Khalif Raymond from Tennessee, who's going to be our new Jamal Agnew return man-esque, doesn't excite me. And now I'm glad we didn't spend high on wide receiver early in the draft because we didn't need to. We have tried to draft wide receiver early in so many years past, and that's just not how you win a championship. It really isn't. You need to find diamonds in the rough when it comes to wide receiver. I assume in about 5 years, they'll be just as obsolete as running backs because there will be so many of them. You will be able to find a wide receiver anywhere. You'll be able to see him walking down the street and be like, hey, you can play in the NFL. And they'll be like, all right. And he'll go catch 1,000 yards because wide receivers kind of can come out of nowhere. So I'm okay with not drafting one early. And I don't think we need to next year either. I don't think we need to address it in free agency or either. I believe we've seen like the Los Angeles Rams be able to make key draft picks that help out in Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson. And I hope that Brad Holmes will be able to do that in Detroit as well. We saw Kenny Galladay from the old regime, 3rd round pick. Like you can find good wide receivers later in drafts these days. DK Metcalf falling to the 2nd round. I'm just not sold on trying to push for it early in the draft or even for spend big on a big free agent wide receiver. I'm all about homegrown, organic wide receivers from deep in the dirt, and you just scoop them up, and it's like the most beautiful radish you've ever had. You know what I mean? You're just like, look at this fucking look at this freaking radish. This radish is delicious, and you just eat it, and it's a great wide receiver. So that's what I'm hoping for. Excuse my French. I got a couple beers in me.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. You just can tell the passion you have for your team, which is absolutely A-okay on my side here. But the person who's going to be throwing the ball for the first time in a long time is not going to be Matthew Stafford. You've got Jared Goff. The trade happened obviously early in the offseason. Are you happy having Jared Goff on board? Now, I admit I'm a Seattle fan, so I've seen enough of Jared Goff to do me a lifetime playing for the Rams against him because he's one player that would struggle 14 games out of the year, but those 2 games against the Seahawks, he would turn it up and light Seattle up each time. I hated seeing him. I'm going to love to see the back of him, but we are scheduled to play you guys this year as well, so I'm going to see him one more time at least. So, but what do you think as Jared Goff as your QB going forward?
There's a lot to digest with it. This is, like you said, the first time in 13 years that Matthew Stafford isn't going to be lining up under center to start out the season. That's big. That's like I don't really know how to like digest it. And the quarterbacks before Matthew Stafford for me were like Charlie Batch and Joey Harrington and John Kitna and like these quarterbacks that have no reason being quarterbacks. So I'm quite interested. In fact, I'm intrigued. I'm excited just for a new face, a new arm, a new body under center, just to see. And to be honest, we're gaining a quarterback who I believe has made the playoffs every single year of his NFL career, made the Super Bowl once. The Lions have made the playoff 3 times in 13 years with Matthew Stafford, and we won 0 of those games. 0. We haven't won a playoff game since 1991. I do not care if Jared Goff doesn't look like Matthew Stafford, doesn't throw as far, as fast, as dumb as Matthew Stafford. I'm very excited to get a guy who's going to be much more of a game manager. Matthew Stafford has the arm to make these unbelievable throws, but sometimes he tries to make these unbelievable throws and they're really dumb and there's just no need. And sometimes they like go through and Kenny Galladay makes this amazing catch and everyone's like, this is why Matthew Stafford's the best quarterback in the league. And it's like, well, no, you didn't need to make that throw. You just didn't even, I'm glad it worked out this time, but the next time it's not going to work out. We just don't need to be doing that. So I'm glad we get Jared Goff in here. Now, if we can implement Green Bay as Jared Goff's Seattle, I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? If Jared Goff wants to stink for 14 games, but light it up against Green Bay, I'm a happy guy. I'll be a happy camper. I do think he gives us a good veteran experience. His stats are very similar to Matthew Stafford's through this amount of games played in their career. Again, it's just the postseason that's the big difference. As of right now, he's still young, 26, 27, something like that when the season starts. Let's take this for a ride. You never know. We don't know if the paint's gonna come off and all of a sudden you have like this beautiful 1960, I don't know cars, Mustang, I don't know cars, but or is it just gonna end up being just like a station wagon? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know really what this is gonna turn out to be. I believe in Dan Campbell. I believe he's a guy who will make other guys run through walls for him, which is awesome. If he and Jared Goff can stay on the same page along with Anthony Lynn, then there's no reason with the offensive line that we have and the running back that we have, Jared Goff can't go out there and throw 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 4,000 yards, and we can win between 8 and 10 games. Like, I truly believe that, because Dan, it's all about coaching. You can give that same defense, that worst NFL defense that I said for Detroit last year, 2020, the worst defense of all time in the NFL. You take Matt Patricia away from that and you replace him with Dan Campbell, I bet you that defense is not as bad. Sometimes it's not about personnel, it's about coaching. And I like our coach. I like Jared Goff, and I think the connection is going to be very awesome, fun to watch.
Yeah, and with Anthony Lynn as the OC calling plays next year, it possibly we could see a more run-oriented game from the Lions, and we could get a situation where the Lions adopt maybe a Brown-style offense, because like the Browns, they have 2 good running backs there in Swift and Williams. So you give the game to them and then let Goff play off the play action, where he's not having to be throwing 50 times a game. So he can throw 20, 30, and then, that will give him the time that he needs to throw. And maybe that can be a way to succeed in Detroit.
Yeah, and that's how we're going to win, right? That's what I was like. We're going to have to be New England of 2004, right? We're going to have to win with running backs, defense, and game managing quarterbacks who plays off of the play action, similar to what Kirk Cousins does with Minnesota. They live through Dalvin Cook and then live off of that play action, and that's how we're going to win. And if we can't do that fundamentally, then we have absolutely no chance. And like right now, we have the worst odds to win the NFC. I think maybe the worst odds to win the championship, whatever. If we're gonna like stump the world and shock the world, then we have to do that through DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. They both have to be huge benefactors in this offense. TJ Hawkinson has to be George Kittle, but better. Like, he needs to lead the league in receiving yards with like 1,700. And then we're gonna have to live off of our offensive line that we just stacked up, and we've been talking about for a solid week now, because after this draft with Swell, man, our offensive line should be looking good. That's how we're going to have to win, and we're going to need our defense obviously to step up and not be the worst defense in the world.
Yeah. And finally, before we let you go, I want to ask you, you've talked a little bit about Dan Campbell. Since he's arrived in, he's sort of given that jump and enthusiasm to the team that I think has been lacking a couple of years, because let's be honest, Matt Patricia wasn't exactly, the most charismatic character in the league. Even just the sort of, the enthusiasm and sort of his energy has definitely sort of boosted the Lions, even just the Lions team in general, even before they've actually even done any training.
I am excited for Dan Campbell, and not just Dan Campbell, but Brad Holmes as well. I think he, behind the scenes, is just as aggressive and intense as Dan Campbell. So I'm excited to see these two. Like I said, Dan Campbell's a guy that you run through a wall for. Man, you stand up and you literally just start running at a wall over and over and over and over, and until you break through that wall. You will run through a wall for Dan Campbell, because he will be right there, like, on your back, telling you can do it. And I'm so excited to see it, because the difference between him and Matt Patricia, night and day. Like, Matt Patricia nobody had his back. Not one person in the Detroit Lions team had his back. And you could tell that the way he talked to his players, like you listen in behind the scenes, you know what I mean? He mic'd up, and no one they would like the fake laugh. Like, you hear that fake laugh like kids give to like teachers and and you give to like your boss, you know what I mean? Like you walk in your boss and your boss is like, hey, I heard this funny joke. And you're like, oh my God, that is hilarious. And you like walk away and you're like, I hate that dude. You know what I mean? I love my boss if he's watching. But I'm just saying if you were to like listen to the conversations between Matt Patricia and the Detroit Lions, that's how it was. Like it was just a dictatorship. It was terrible, a terrible, terrible way for the Lions to finish Matthew Stafford's career with them. But then out of all that darkness comes light, right? Comes a shining bright light. And it's Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. And they're walking side by side. And they are going to change this. I feel it. I truly feel like the intensity has sprung through the locker room, through the field. And it's energized the fans, the media. Like, it's exciting around here right now. I think a lot of us truly believe, along with the additional picks that we have over the next 2 years, I think there's a lot of new talent that can be brought in. And everyone knows that there's a ton of parity in the NFL. A team can go from first to worst in the blink of an eye. It doesn't happen like that in the NBA, in the NHL, in the MLB. But in the NFL, man, you can go from being the worst team, pick one player, and all of a sudden, your team has shifted the entire fate of the NFL. The Lions have been waiting a long time, 70 years, for that game-changing player to have a team around him. Right now, it reminds me of like the Detroit Pistons in the 1990s, where we didn't have an MVP, right? Fun little fact, the Detroit Pistons are the only team ever to win an NBA championship without a future, a present, or a past MVP on their team. They did it 3 times, 1989, 1990, and 2004. The only 3 teams in NBA history. That's kind of how the Lions are going to be, I believe, for the next 2 years. Winning with a team that has no star power, no like impactful, media presence, but man, it's just a team. It's a united team that Dan Campbell is straight up leading into every battle, biting the kneecaps off, punching them in the throat, and walking to the next battle and repeating. And I truly believe that they're going to get their at least first playoff win with Dan Campbell. I can't wait.
Was that Pistons teams that you're talking about with Isaiah Thomas?
Yeah.
Did he never win MVP, no?
No, Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer. None of them ever won MVP. Dennis Rodman, obviously. And then the 2004, Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince. None of them ever won MVP, ever.
Okay. Oh, I thought he would have. Now my NBA knowledge is limited. I'll be honest now with that.
But that's like the one fact that I know, and I love to bring it up every chance I get.
Yeah. But listen, there's one thing there before as well we let you go. So we're hoping next season, I think it's pretty much nailed on. We're going to see full stadiums again now, and we're looking forward to Ford Field being filled again. But tell me, are we going to get cardboard cutouts of knees and fans biting on them?
Oh my God. I never really even thought about that. But if we don't have like a Walking Dead zombie biting a kneecap at least, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to do like cannibalism. Like that's fine. I get you probably don't want to have that going on. But at least like a zombie, like a 28 weeks later zombie, you know what I mean? Or walking as some zombie, like, dude, yes. Yeah. I believe that's mandatory. And if it's not, I'll get on the phone with the Lions PR and I'll make sure it happens. All right.
Yeah. That's it. I only need like 12% credit. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
You get 11. We'll talk about that.
All right. We'll work it up to 11.5 by the end of this. I promise.
I like it.
But listen, Nick, it's been great having you on the show. That's all the time we have on this show today, guys. Thanks so much to Nick Faber again for coming on to the show. Just look at the bottom of the screen if you want to find his Twitter profile, and just look out for the Honolulu Blues Show on YouTube. You'll find there if you want to tune into his show too. But we'll be back again soon with another team's off season and another guest. But until then, stay safe and we'll speak soon.